From the Hornets having bad seasons to MJ selling his stakes, the Charlotte Hornets might go through some drastic changes in recent times. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Charlotte Hornets owner Michael Jordan is engaged in serious talks to sell a majority stake in the franchise. In 2020, Jordan sold a minority stake in the Charlotte Hornets to a group led by Plotkin. Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, first invested in the Hornets ownership group in 2006. He reportedly paid $275 million to become the franchise's majority owner in 2010. The Hornets are reportedly worth $1.77 billion today, so Jordan will profit handsomely from his initial investment if the deal goes through. It's not the first time he made this move. He's divesting from an NBA team for the second time in his illustrious career. The first time was back in 2001, when Jordan sold his 10% stake in the Washington Wizards to comply with NBA rules against player owners during a forgettable return to the nation's capital. Although the specifics of that transaction are lost to history. Statista.com values the Wizards at $278 million as early as 2003, which was fairly typical for the time. Despite these obvious disadvantages for prospective buyers, Jordan's timing on the sale is as precise as his fadeaway. Forbes now values the entire club at 27th among NBA teams, but representing a 443% increase from 2010. When Jordan paid $275 million for media mogul Bob Johnson's 65% stake. If and when he sells his shares to a group led by minority owner Gabe Plotkin and investor Richard Schnall, currently the only reported bidders, he stands to profit while avoiding the team's local media partner's ongoing bankruptcy. But who exactly are these two bidders? Gabe Plotkin is a hedge fund manager, investor, and former Melvin Capital chief investment officer. If you recognize the name, it's because Plotkin and Melvin Capital were at the center of the GameStop or the Robinhood controversy, which sadly resulted in Melvin Capital's demise. How the disgraced Plotkin, whom Reddit has labeled as an economic terrorist, has the financial clout and respectability to become the face of an NBA ownership group is a valid question, but one that no one can answer right now. And if you talk about his partner, Richard Schnall is Mr. Boring. He is a partner at Clayton, Dublier, and Rice, leading the firm's financial services and technology teams. Schnall is a minority owner of the Atlanta Hawks and a Harvard graduate who lives in New York City. Not only that, he simply checks all the boxes of your typical wealthy investor. Schnall is little known outside of being extremely wealthy and interested in NBA ownership. But prepare to expect that you'll see a dramatic change in the Hornets. The Hornets' foundations are rotten. Like any new homeowner, you can expect them to be transformed and rebuilt entirely. Coaches, front offices, staffing, and players can all expect major changes in the next 18 months. But we have to keep one thing in mind. Several new NBA owners have made rookie mistakes in their first years with the team. The Kings' Vivek Ranadive, the Timberwolves' Alex Rodriguez, and Mark Lore. And the list goes on. Whether it was appointing Vlade Divac as GM, Rodriguez trading just about everything for Gobert, or Ishbia going all in for Durant, history tells us that change is on the way. But in all of this change, would one thing stay the same? MJ's involvement. Jordan appears to have retained a minority stake in the Hornets as part of the sale. Does this mean he'll be retained as an advisor? Or is he simply looking for a way to connect with NBA owners? It's no secret that he's a well-respected voice in the NBA, having played key roles in recent CBA and the bubble negotiations. So only time will tell if Jordan will stay involved or not. Though you must think, why did the GOAT make this decision? Well, Jordan's on-court success in Charlotte has clearly not been what everyone had hoped for since taking over in 2010. Nepotism, low spending, a lack of engagement, and poor decision-making have all been leveled at Jordan. However, if you speak with the Hornets staff, they will tell you that Charlotte has significantly improved off the court. Connecting with the local community, ticket sales, reintroducing the Hornets to Charlotte, and improving the overall working environment are all priorities. Unfortunately, if the team isn't winning in professional sports, all other progress is thrown out the window and forgotten. There's no denying that Michael Jordan is widely regarded as the greatest basketball player ever, but he's also hailed as one of the worst talent evaluators ever. Since Michael Jordan's arrival as a talent evaluator, minority owner, president of basketball operations, and eventually the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets, the team has been ruled by a somewhat despotic leader. Not all of Jordan's decisions have been horrible, but many have been absolutely catastrophic. This team has only made the playoffs once in its history, which was also its only winning season, and it's coming off a historically bad season. The Hornets entered the 2022-23 season following what was unquestionably the worst offseason in franchise history. The biggest domino to fall was Miles Bridges' arrest. But other events like the Kenny Atkinson saga and the Jalen Duren trade made the 2022 offseason one to forget. The most obvious issue occurred when Gordon Hayward was injured and returned as a visibly limited version of himself. Hayward's wife then took to social media to share her story, which she later took back. The Hornets did re-sign Cody Martin, but he was out for several weeks due to injury. Speaking of injuries, the Hornets have been extremely unlucky, losing several key players for extended periods due to injury. But let's go back to his airness and some of his blunders, and specifically to the bottom of bad decisions. Most people would look at his basketball IQ and think he must be a pro at judging talent in the NBA. Hate to break it to you, it's quite the opposite. Jordan's talent on the court and knowledge of the sport, for whatever reason, have not translated to office work and talent evaluation. His problems began when he decided to become an executive immediately after retiring. Jordan should have rested for a few seasons. He should have vacationed in some tropical islands, played golf with his best pal Tiger Woods, gambled, and did whatever his heart desired. But at the same time, he should have followed basketball in the early 2000s to see where the game was going. Instead, he attempted to steer the NBA in the wrong direction and failed miserably. Anyone who said no to the greatest basketball player of all time would have been expelled from the game. So there was no stopping him. Charlotte has dropped to 419 and 595. In his 13 seasons as head coach, the Hornets have only made 2 playoff appearances and have never advanced past the first round of the playoffs. Jordan has seen many coaches come and go in Charlotte, including Larry Brown, Paul Silas, James Borrego, and Steve Clifford, who is now in his second stint with the team. By downgrading to a minority ownership stake in the Hornets and possibly retaining some role with the team, the 60-year-old greatest basketballer can avoid the headaches of NBA ownership. He won't have to worry about revenue, cable contracts, or irate fans. And he'll be able to focus on other projects, such as his Nike brand or new NASCAR team. According to a statement from Jordan's company, Jump Management, a deal is not imminent. If he does decide to leave, Jordan won't find a better opportunity. Well, that's all on Michael Jordan selling the Charlotte Hornets.